When you don't know what you're supposed to do next, when your work is underdefined, when people aren't available, when work isn't completable, when you know you are doing a thing that absolutely does not need to be done, when you're confronted by toxicity and aggression and frustration, all of these things create stress. And stress is a human reaction to a breakdown in a system, which means like you should be getting work or work should be coming to you in a way where it's defined and you can complete it. Or if it's not, you have a system to then define and then complete the work. So it's either comes defined or you have a way to define it. And if there's complexity in it, you have a way to deal with that complexity. You build a system that has flow, and the flow is that work moving along not smoothly, but predictably, right? So your work could always have like rapids and it could have like, whirlpools and stuff in it, but you know the general lay of the land or the lay of the river, as it were, and then how work flows through that system. When things are unexpected, that creates drag, that creates your inability to get something done. So when we're talking about visualizing stress here, what we're talking about is saying, okay, I'm finding that there is stress and I want to get rid of it. I want to get rid of it by achieving a better workflow. How do I go about doing that? So how do I know what stress is? How do I define my flow? How do I define the drag and then make something happen with it? So I've created another quick board for number 3 in this series, another quick board here for us to see the work and what's happening. So the first part here is finding flow. And so the first part of finding flow, like I just said, is being able to know what you're going to do. So you're going to want to plan your work. So let's just assume that we have all of this work that we're going to do and we need to plan it. We need to get together with our team. We need to get together with our stakeholders. We need to get together with everyone who's involved and then plan out the work that's coming up. And this doesn't seem like it's difficult, but what I can tell you is that people are really bad about just taking a little bit of time to plan the work up front so that they don't end up being surprised by parts of that work as they go forward. So here we have things. We have work that's ready for planning. So let's just say right now that these things are just things that we could plan if we want to. So before we start planning, people get in and they move things into different columns. So they just say, okay, before we even get into the planning, we're all going to get in. I'm going to note these things that I think are pretty easy. I'm going to note these other things where they might be kind of hard. And they might be hard because they're complex. They might be hard because they require working with a bunch of people that I don't really have full-time access to, so I have to schedule meetings. It could be politically sensitive or personally sensitive. There's all sorts of things that could make these additional work, and noting that up front is different. So it's not just saying like, oh, this is going to take me 15 minutes or this is a 3-point or 5-point, task. Is saying I'm understanding that I think that I have this fully defined and can get it done with no surprises, or that there's going to be some surprises and I have to be ready. So these are of a known period of time. Could be a minute, it could be, a month, but generally what's going to happen. Over here, these are things that you don't. That's important to know up front for flow. Because when you pull something that is iffy into your flow, you know that you have to pay more attention to it than you do to other things. So then we have a little breakdown. This week, next week, and after next week. Looks like sprints. Okay. But why are they there? They're there because you're not doing your work for you or with you. You're doing your work for and with other people. And they need to know when that work will be done. You can't just say, oh, it'll happen sometime randomly over the next couple of weeks or so, because that doesn't give people enough information. And with the speed that we operate now in business, People are going to be asking you every day, have you started this? Have you started this? Where are we at with this? Where are we at with that? So we want to be able to, in this just planning column, say these are things that we're going to do this week, and we can do 6 of them. So let's say we set up a rule. We say, only do 2 difficult things, and then the rest of the things over here we'll do, you know, that are known or easy. Then these other things, these are also difficult, but people are definitely asking for them. So we're going to say, okay, we're going to move that one out to next week. And I think that this one's going to take a long time, so we're going to actually move that one over to after next week. And then somebody's asking for this, and somebody's asking for this. So why do we have this column? And why is this column only 3? 2 reasons. One, we have this column because when we talk to people and we say, I'm not doing your thing this week, they're going to talk to you nonstop as long as it's not programmatically put someplace. So here you're saying, I am committing to you, which is a promise. It's a real promise. It says, I'm going to get to this next week and we are going to finish it up. And then they say, okay. And then they go away for the week. But if you just leave it over here, then they really don't know when you're ever going to get it done. So you put it here so it's obvious to them that you are going to get to this a week from Monday, right? A week from today. Let's say it's Monday. Then after next week, those are things that we put out there because we want to be ready to pull them. We want to describe them to other people, but we also want them to know, look, this is going to be after 2 weeks. So we're going to get back to you when we do our next planning session, and we're going to tell you if we moved it or not. Now we've planned our work, and now we're actually in the process of doing the work. Okay, so now there's stuff that happens all the time, which is people are like, hey, we've planned our work. Everything's going to be fine now. No, that doesn't work that way. So sometimes we are going to pull something. We're going to say, you know what? We didn't actually define this well enough. And this is one of the biggest problems is like people will do sprint planning and then they won't want to plan in the middle of the sprint. It's like, no, that's actually what we need to do. Like every time we discover that something is a little bit weird, we need to do this. So let's say that this was even an easy task and we pull it into doing, and then all of a sudden the products that we were going to use to produce this video, they close up shop and they just disappear off the face of the internet. Or there's a huge AWS breakdown and it's down for like an entire day. What am I going to do? So now it's like, what? And then we get together and we figure out how to do this work in a different way. And then we move it into doing. The other part of the what column is that this is like a complex task. This is difficult to do. So we pull it into what, and then we figure out how we want to get that work done. Then we pull it into doing. There's also 2 types of work. So this is I'm doing this, and this is I'm collaborating with somebody else on this. Why is that important? That's important because we want to make sure that when we're pulling work in for collaboration, that we understand that A, multiple people are working on it, and that B, while those people are working on it, they are focused and largely unavailable for other things. So weirdly enough, when you're doing work on your own, you're pretty interruptible, but when you work with other people, you're not. It's the weirdest thing. So if you ever want to be not interrupted, just go to a room with somebody else that needs to focus, and then you two pretend to be having a meeting. But this allows for bubbles, for concentration bubbles. It's another one of the reasons why when you're collaborating on things with other people, it happens faster. Then there's in review. And in review here is saying, that right now this work is being reviewed by other people. Okay, so let's pull this up so that we can see it, and then bring in the Afterburner. And many of you have seen the Afterburner before, but this is just basically a continuous improvement enforcing tool where when we're done with this and we pull it in, we say, I would like to do more of this. We need to talk about why we did this in the first place. We need to talk about how we did this, or we just need to talk about it at all. And they're very gross columns. You can make them more refined if you want. But I strongly suggest that if you're ever trying to find flow, a big part of flow is understanding what it is that you can improve, because every time you improve your work and you reduce your stress, you improve your flow. Every time you improve your processes, you improve your flow. Every time you improve your understanding or your handoffs or the way that you collaborate or have meetings, you improve your flow. And flow is money, and flow is professional reward and acumen. Flow is the ability for us to get our work done without being really upset. This is the Finding Flow board. Like, subscribe, do all the things that you should do. If you get value out of this, put comments in. Tell us what you did. Tell us how you used it. Thanks so much.